crafty friends, this is the Paper Chef here. Welcome to part 5 of my Rustic Harvest Workshop series. In today's tutorial, you're going to learn how to create this sunflower card. We're going to do several techniques. One is heat embossing, where we use copper embossing powder to heat up the background of this sunflower image and these two smaller images and the banner. And then we're going to heat emboss that powder. And the second technique is going to be using these blender pens for coloring. I like using blender pens for coloring because you can do your shading the way that you want. It can make the flowers lighter and darker. We'll be using crushed curry and mossy meadow, which are coordinating colors. Okay, the results of my poll are in, but you can still keep voting. On my channel, I put a poll, and I asked, which is your favorite card? Now, out of these two cards, I was shocked because this is my favorite card, but I was outvoted. This is what I'm calling the Hello Pumpkin card, where we use the emboss resist technique. So this is my favorite style, but this one won. This one is 52% of the vote. It didn't win by that much, and I have 64 votes so far. So feel free to vote in my poll on the community tab here on YouTube. So right now, this one's in the running. And then I'll tell you later what the next project will be that we'll be creating, because we've created lots of projects through parts 1 through 4 of this series, and I'll be showing those all to you. Okay, we're going to take out this stamp here, the sunflower stamp. We're going to mount it onto a stamping block. So go ahead and lay it on the table like that, and then mount it onto a stamping block. I'm using a large stamping block. Then go ahead and get the small sunflower and mount that onto a smaller stamping block. So this stamping block, the smaller one is C and the larger one is E, just so you know. Okay, so we're going to put that face up. These are cling stamps. They stick really well. Okay, and then we're going to get this long one, the loveliest day, and we're going to go ahead and mount that onto a stamping block H. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and get a placemat here so we don't get ink on the table. Okay, we're going to lay that here. And we're going to use what's called Versamark ink for embossing. Let me grab my little tools and things that I need, my tray. All right, what do I have here? I need a piece of crushed curry. These are just little scraps here. We're gonna use the crushed curry for making the smaller sunflowers. I'm gonna move that tray out of the way for a moment. And when you're stamping, it's always good to use the little silicone mat. All right, so now let's take this piece of crushed curry. Actually, we'll use this other scrap as well. We'll make a few of the little flowers. Now we're gonna get our little embossing tray ready. Now this is gonna be used for heating. These are the little tweezers. This is the Embossing Editions Toolkit. Okay, so later on, maybe I'll open the catalog and show you where this is, but I've done it in all the other parts of the video. The Embossing Editions Toolkit is part of the Rustic Harvest Suite. So you can get this toolkit. And I'm going to leave the little cap on. This is to help get the embossing powder back into the container. Now I'm going to take my little Baskin-Robbins spoon. So whenever you get a little sample of ice cream, save those little spoons because they work perfect for scooping out your embossing powder. And we're going to take our embossing buddy. Now the embossing buddy is I think it's like a talcum powder inside. And what you do is you rub that over your cardstock like this, and it just keeps the powder sticking in all the right places. So it's just a little bit of white on it, and I'll just kind of brush that off. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to take the Versamark, which is invisible ink, and I'm going to dip that onto the mat, dip it into the Versamark and onto the mat. Now when I stamp it onto my paper, right, you can see it. Hopefully, yeah, there you go. You can see it. Now, real quickly, before it dries, you want to pour your embossing powder over the top of that. Now, the embossing powder is going to stick onto the Versamark. Okay, and I'm going to tap off the excess. And if there are any little bits, I can try to get it off with my fingernail or tweezers, because if I don't get those extra bits of copper off, they will heat set onto the paper. Okay, there's one. Let's go ahead and do a few sunflowers, just so we have a few extras. Right? Stamp, stamp, stamp. Okay? Pour the powder over all of them. I think you can die cut 2 at a time. I think they gave us 2 little die cuts, but I'm not sure. If not, we'll just die cut 1 at a time. Some sets of dies give you 2 of the small things. I know we have 3 of the little flourishes. So I'm just knocking the powder off. And you can also get your little brush and brush the excess powder off. But it really doesn't matter if you get powder into these areas because we're going to be die cutting this. But if this were a card, if this were a white card and you were trying not to get excess powder around the outsides of your images, then you would want to get this excess powder off with the tweezers or something. Like your take your pick tool. You can use the pointy end of your take your pick tool. This is in the annual catalog, and you can just get rid of extra little bits. All right, but I'm happy with that. So now we have our little sunflowers. Now we need the big sunflower. Same technique. I'll go ahead and move this off to the side. We're going to, because this is a larger sunflower, we're going to use the Versamark upside down on such a large stamp to give it good coverage. And even so, even though we can't see it, I still like to stamp onto the mat first. So we're going to, just to make sure we get good coverage. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and tap, tap, tap. Now I'm going to take a piece of, let's move those off to the side. We don't have to heat them. Once we put the powder on them, we don't have to heat them right away. We can heat them later, heat set them later. I'm going to get a piece of basic white, and I'm going to stamp onto the basic white with the Versamark. Now, because it's such a large flower, I'm only going to do one of these at a time with the powder. So we're going to stamp. Okay, let me show you that. Well, you can't really see it. It's invisible. That's the whole point. Now we're going to pour the embossing powder over it. This just really never gets old for me. Heat embossing is really magical. And if you think you need a little more coverage, if you didn't get all the spots, go ahead and do that again. Now, I didn't even use the embossing buddy, and it seemed to do a pretty good job, but it does a better job when you use the embossing buddy. So let's put the embossing buddy on that one. And it really depends on the kind of paper you're using, too. Some paper's stickier. Okay, little embossing buddy on that one. Move that off to the side. Let me get a drink. All right. Let's see. Going to use the Versamark on the sunflower. Okay. I'm just doing 2 of each just so we have enough for our cards, right? There it is. Sort of. You can't really see it, but I can put some powder on it. La, la, la. Okay, good. Tap, tap, tap. All right, lastly, we'll do 2 banners. I like that so far. I'm going to do 2 of the Loveliest Day banners. So I'll move this off to the side. Okay, and we're going to take this banner, and again, it's so big, it might fit on the stamp pad. Oh, I just rubbed right into that. Let's see if we can fix that. Yeah, so usually you can fix it when you rub the powder off. Yeah, if you catch it while it's wet, you can fix it. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat set these. Just going to go ahead and heat set them because I'm afraid I'm going to rub the powder off again. So for heat setting, go ahead and use your tweezers. Turn on your embossing tool. You can let it heat up. I just start using it right away. I don't really let it heat up too much. I use the higher setting, number 2. This is the Stampin' Up! Heat tool. It's in the annual catalog. And just so I don't mess these up. This one's going to come out better, I can tell. Because the other one I rubbed it off a little bit, but it's okay. It's all good. Now watch it magically transform as you heat it up. And it turns into the copper metallic look. Never try die cutting until you have heat set your embossed image. Okay, I'll move that down a little bit. But you can just see the difference between the one that's heat set and the one that's not. And I'm going to go ahead and use a circular motion. And I'm just trying to make sure in the light that I have good metallic results here, which I do. It's a nice metallic coverage. Yeah, this one came out pretty good too. You can see it getting darker as the metallic powder heats up. So it's magical and it never gets old because you're just watching something that you created just completely transform into another shape, and it's just very nice. And then, when you color it, in case you didn't hear that, I said watching it transform is magical. And then when you color it, it's even more magical. All right, so we'll heat set the other ones in a minute. Let me bring back the powder. All right, so because I didn't want to start doing something else on this page without first heat setting those. So let's go ahead and get the Versamark, which I moved off to the side. Here we go. Whenever you're going to heat set, you always want to take your powder and move it far away or it'll blow all over the place. Ask me how I know. Okay, and then go ahead and stamp that onto the mat, onto the basic white cardstock. This is the regular basic white cardstock, not the thick basic white. Okay, you can try to grab some powder off the bottom if you are running low on powder, or you could just grab it out of the jar. These little trays make it really easy to put back in the jar, so it's all good. Okay. Yeah, should have used the embossing buddy. It's good. It's kind of a good habit if you're going to do a lot of embossing. Just use the embossing buddy on all your paper first, because the little powder on it won't fall off. Okay, let's see if I can't fit a banner right there. Okay, little powder. Can you see the little ghost there? We were cutting ghost. If you missed that video, be sure to check that out because we embossed a bunch of ghost using this month's paper pumpkin kit called Spooky Treats. So that's what we did on YouTube, and that was fun, except for my little coughing fit, but we got through it. And my viewers didn't leave me. Little sneak peek of that. We did a lot of die cutting of the ghost and with our ScanNCut machines. So if you missed that tutorial on how to ghost, that's what that little piece is right there. I was using that paper. All right, so let's get back to this. So how can I tell the viewers didn't leave me? Well, there's something called analytics, and YouTube tells us how long you watch the videos for, which is nice. Now, the longer the video, that you don't tend to watch for the whole thing, but the shorter the videos, the longer people stay to watch them. But that doesn't pertain to all like crafting videos. Crafting videos, my viewers tend to watch longer than, say, a different subject, because crafting videos can be longer than other videos. But what was interesting is I tried my first short. A short video is when they give you only 30 seconds, and I did a little preview video, and I had 110% watch time. That means that people watched it for the entire time and then some without clicking off, meaning they watched it over time. I've never had 110% watch time in all of the 6 or 7 years I've been doing this. So I'll be trying some more of those short videos to see how they come out. I think that was really fun. It's actually really challenging to try to condense everything I taught you in a long, detailed 45-minute tutorial into 30 seconds. Very challenging, but it was very entertaining to do, and I'm going to keep doing it. So anyway, that's what I was doing, is getting the extra powder off, even though I'm going to be die cutting these. So let's go ahead and put this cap back on. Now later, what you do to get the powder off, and I did show this during the part 1 of this series, is you're going to take this, you're going to open up this cap, you're going to put your jar down here, open up the cap, and brush the powder through this hole and into your little jar. Okay, that's how you get the powder back into your jar. I'm moving that way far away now, so I don't want the powder to blow around. I'm going to go ahead and heat set these two. Then we'll heat set the 2 smaller sunflowers, and then what we'll do is we'll do the die cutting, which is how I actually craft. I do things in stages. I would do this part. I would do all the powder. I would do all the, heat embossing, and then I would do the coloring, etc. So these came out nice, pretty nice. I prefer larger font. Like, I like the words loveliest day. Wishing you it's really hard to do with embossing powder. It came out nice, only because the stamp is a cling stamp. It's a rubber stamp and it's detailed, but that's a little small for me. I like bigger sentiments, as you probably know from my style we all have a different crafting style. But what's beautiful about this, wishing you the loveliest day, is it fits perfectly in the banner. Of all the stamps in the set, this one fits perfectly in the die. And so I use it the most in this series because it's just suitable for the Rustic Harvest workshop, the suite. It has the most potential. Okay, that looks good. Now let's go ahead and get I just always like to make sure it's really heat set for good measure. All right, good. Let's go get those sunflowers. Finish those off. Go ahead and see if I can't get them both at once. Here we go, with the tweezers. These are really strong tweezers. I really love these tweezers. And I have a lot of craft tweezers. But these are like heavy duty. And the metal part is down here, but the plastic part's what's touching the paper, not the metal part. So the plastic part doesn't melt or doesn't scratch your paper. So for each card, we need one banner, one big sunflower, and 2 small sunflowers. That's why I went ahead and made 4, even though we'll just make one card for time, but we have extras in case we mess up, and then we don't have to go back and do this part. The heat set will be done and everything, and all we need to do is die cut. All right, I like these. You can see them transformed. Look at that metallic look. Now we have a metallics collection with gold, silver, and copper for embossing powders, and then we have a basics collection of embossing powders. The basics collection would be black, white, and clear. I use clear on YouTube with the ghost. That's how I achieved that effect of the translucent ghost. I also use clear a lot to set the white. So we'll be doing that later in this series, to set the white powder. You can use like white ink and then you put clear on top. All right, so this is the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Excuse me. All right, so what I did is I opened this up just so you can see. Here, I moved my camera up, but I just want to show you. That's the front of it, and then it opens up like that. The sandwich is, so you need, there's a sandwich, meaning a die cutting sandwich, right? You have a sandwich, which is the platform, and then whenever you have thin dies, you use the platform. You use number 2 for the thin die adapter. That's a thin die adapter. And then you need one number 3. And then this is an extra scratch plate. Then you need an extra. Then you need to put your paper down. And then you need an extra number 3. I like to use this Post-it tape to help hold my dies in place because it doesn't rip my paper. We're going to lay this down. This is your paper. And you're going to take your metal dies from your Rustic pumpkin dies, that's what they're called. We're going to take those out. Okay, well, there goes one. That just came out. Okay, now we're going to take this die. This is the little, okay, we only have one little one for the flower, unless I lost the second one. Then this one, but we have 3 little swirls. Okay, if you want to know how to create a layered pumpkin, we did that in part 2. That was super fun. Okay, so we're going to take this and we're going to put it down right on there. You're going to center it on your sunflower. And you're going to take your tape, right, and just kind of put it off to the side like that. Tape it. Tape it. Try not to get it in the middle of your image, because although it doesn't really rip your paper, you don't want to tease it, right? You don't want to get it right on top of your paper too much, because it could rip your paper a little bit, but doesn't usually. Okay, now we need the tape again. Where'd the tape go? You're like, I can see it in the camera, but you can't see it because of my angle. Sometimes my viewers have to tell me where things are because you all see straight down. And it's like, it's right there. It's on the right. In this case, on the left. All right, so let's go ahead and tape that on there. So now what you do is you're gonna put the top platform, the plate number 3 on there. This one doesn't need to be there. And remember, if you are gonna ever put a die there, if I did wanted to just die cut a shape, for example, always make sure you have the metal side down, the side with the ridges down, side down. I mean, nothing happens if you don't. It just cuts into your plastic plates, and then you're like wondering if you messed up your plates, but don't worry about that cracking sound. You don't really mess up your plates. It's like, I sometimes put dies in the wrong way. Okay, so now we have our banner. I'm gonna pull this off, and we're gonna use this tape again for as long as it will stick. So put that up there, use it again. So we have our loveliest day banner and our sunflowers. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut the rest out while I'm here because I just think it's a more efficient use of my time than setting this all up later. Okay, so I'm gonna put this right here. And this is what you should do too. Do all your die cutting at once. So when I'm having a kit, like when I do my kits, those are the workshop kits. I didn't do any this time, but we're going to be back to doing kits in November. So when I do that, I do all the die cutting at once for those kits because that's the only way to know. Well, and I, you know, sometimes I have a helper. And it's the only way to know, okay, we have enough of each of the elements. And yes, it does maybe make your arm a little tired. But it's the way to make sure that you have planned out all the projects ahead of time and have all the little pieces that you need. So I do a lot of die cutting for you so that you don't have to. And it's just a way to get to sample lots of our Stampin' Up! Products. And knowing what each little die looks like before you buy it is a really nice thing. And then you get to use it on a card. So you really, kits are a great value. All right, let's see. This is... And my kits are epic. Just saying. They're not like anybody else's because they're very, very unique. All right. And as you could tell, I don't really do anything like anybody else does. All right. So let's put that. But that's why we all have our own little style. I'm just going to go ahead and cut that banner out. Oh, and while I'm here, go ahead. I can go ahead and do, since I have room on my little platform, I can go ahead and do one of the sunflowers, right? And these don't need to be colored. They're already colored. They're already onto colored cardstock, which is nice. The only thing we need to color is the bigger one and the banner. We're going to put a little bit of shading on the banner. And that way I have extra pieces and not just in case we mess up, but I mean, I might just color them right at the same time too, just to get them done. And then we have the cards made. All right, so that's done. This piece is not done though. Save this piece because you can die cut extra shapes out of this piece of basic white. And I just go down, I just die cut until I run out of shapes to fit that piece of paper. Ooh, I love this one. Look at that one. Oh, it's so pretty. You can just put this on your little treats, your little fall treats. As a little extra embellishment, you can put a little thank you or happy Thanksgiving and put one of these little sunflowers on there and you're good to go. So you're just kind of turning this around until it lines up. And I should remember how it lines up, but there's a little, here we go. Nope, that's not it. Okay, let's see. There's a gap between two of the, maybe that way. Let's try that. Yeah, there you go. See, because there was a gap between, what I did is there's a little gap between the two flowers that was big. You can't really see it through the metal part, but I did it. Turn it upside down, you can see it. Okay. Let's see. Well, that would work if I'd stamped it the same way. All right. Now, another trick I've taught in this series, I don't know if it's in this series, but I've taught on my YouTube channel. I actually need to do a video and just title it this because I teach it in conjunction with other things. But it's what's called my Stamparatus trick. My Stamparatus trick is that I probably, if I were just stamping these, not embossing these, but if I were just stamping these, I would cut out a bunch of these shapes just by themselves. And then I would stamp them later. In this case, I'm also embossing them, so, but you basically, the idea behind the trick is you just cut out a bunch of the same shape over and over and over again. And then you use what's called the stamparatus or the stamp positioning tool to then stamp all your shapes in a big pile. And so if I'm doing swaps, so for example, I'm going to go to this event and it's called an on-stage event. Oh my goodness, it's like I'm turning it around. Okay, let's turn this around like this. There we go. Because that's the way the bigger leaves are on the bottom. And I'm going to try to make 70. I mean, people think I'm crazy because like some of my friends I go with, they're like, oh, I made 20 cards. And I'm like, well, I like to make like 70 cards because if I make 70 cards, I can swap 70 cards. There's more than 70 people there. And sure enough, I'll walk up to 70 people and find 70 people to trade a card with. It's like trading baseball cards, right? But we trade greeting cards. And I make like 70. So to do that, the only way to survive that is to just die cut all the pieces at once and stamp the pieces later. So you just die cut out a bunch of shapes, like a bunch of blank shapes, and stamp them all later. Or you never be able to get done 70 cards. All right, so we're done with the machine. And now we are going to get out. Okay, let's see what you guys say. Do you want to color or you want to make the card bases? I'm going to let you vote on what you want to do next while I say hi. All right. So we're going to do you want to make the bottom of the cards to learn how to make the bottom of the cards, or you want to start coloring? Hello, Yvonne. Hello, Lynn. Hello, Linda from ScanNCut and Create. Hello, Anna. Melissa from Texas. Hello, Anne from New Hampshire. And Anna from Australia. So cool. Oh, I'm glad you like the ghost cards, Anne. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Betty. Hello again. Hi, Nola again. Deborah from New South Wales, Australia. And yeah, you're right. Anne is saying Australia is really well represented, right? That's the time of day. That's because it's late for the US and early for the Australians. And you're not late to the party, Marilyn from Alabama. And Deborah. Thank you, Anna, for your comment. All right. So thank you, Anna, for getting those classes too that I offer. All right. So Lynn was the first vote after Gloria. Hello, Gloria. So she said, let's do the card bases and then we'll color. All right. So to do the card bases, we need some other tools. Just going to clear the deck a little bit, but let's not lose these because you know how I am. I have a magnetic bowl. I'm going to put these in my magnetic bowl that my husband got me. It's like a little magnetic bowl for like nuts and bolts, but I'm putting these in there so I don't lose these. All right, so what you need is for card bases, we'll go ahead and do two. You need a coordinating color that has to coordinate with the Rustic Harvest Suite. So what you want to do is you want to look at this card, and if we use, say, this paper, you would need a different color than the Mossy Meadow. Now let's see what other paper we could possibly use. Let's see. Well, I think that's a good paper. So we'll do one crushed curry card. And then I'm sure there's another paper. So what we'll do is we'll do one card in Mossy Meadow. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and make. And we could have used, what's this one? Early Espresso. I'm not going to use Early Espresso. Too depressing of a color. Although I love coffee. All right, so let's go ahead and get crushed curry. So we get, these are all packs that we sell, 24 per sheet. By the way, if you're going to get cardstock, get them in 24 packs. You save money because if you get a variety pack, we give you 20 in a variety pack, 20 sheets, two of each, 10 different colors. And you only, for the same price, you end up with like 20 sheets of cardstock. But if you get one pack, one color at a time like this, you get 24 sheets. So that adds up over time, 4 sheets extra per pack for the same price. Just saying. And you will definitely use it. So what you want to do before you do your cutting, so you want to look at how the card is. So I need to explain how the card is. How, which way I'm going to score before I cut. So let's open up this card and do a visual. So we have two 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper. When we open up this card, we could see that it is 8.5. It's an A2 card, by the way, by 5.5. Why is it 5.5? Because the paper is 11 inches long. Therefore, I'm going to be cutting it here, but I need to do the scoring here first. Okay, so let's do the scoring. And the scoring is going to be at 4 1/4. Why 4 1/4? Because the paper is 8 1/2. So we're going to score at 4 1/4 straight down. So we're going to take our score tool. Has a thick end and it has a thick end. This is the simply scored. This is the small end and a big end. The big end I use for making flowers. It kind of helps you, like, you know, if you had a mat and you wanted to make this flower 3D. That's what the thick end's for. But we're going to use the small end. And we're going to go ahead and go 4 1/4. And we're going to score down the middle. Okay, like that. Now that way we have 2 cards made at once. When we cut this, we have 2 cards made. 4 1/4, because that's halfway between the 8 1/2. Okay, now we're going to take our trimmer. Now, by the way, your trimmers will score. If you get a Stampin' Up! Trimmer, there's a score tool and there's a cutting blade. But I don't use this. I use 2 cutting blades on mine. I took my score tool off. But if that's all you have, go ahead and use it. We're going to turn this paper sideways and we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut this card 5 1/2. Okay? 5 1/2 because we scored it already. And now we have 2 card bases already scored. Pretty cool, huh? So we'll go ahead and do 2 more. We're not making 4 cards, but I'm making, let's say I make 1 of each color. Then we're happy. 1 of each color. All right, so there you go. Now, I'm going to go ahead and leave this up here. It could be, you can leave either your trimmer here, you need something with a ledge, or you can leave your simply scored on the table. You need a little spatula now or a bone folder. I prefer to use a spatula. You're going to this is a valley, you scored down, it's a valley. Now you turn it up and that's a mountain. So that's a mountain. So that's how we fold our cards. We scored down, but then we fold them up. That's how we train our paper. And when I say train our paper, you want it to go in the right way that it's supposed to go. And then you're just going to flatten it out. And you do that to all your cards. So I scored down, so I flip them over, and I flatten them out with my little spatula. This is a Pampered Chef stone scraper. I have a couple Pampered Chef stones. I love them. So the Papered Chef uses Pampered Chef products. In fact, that's how I came up with my name. I was at a Pampered Chef party. My friend was doing cooking lessons, and I was selling my cards and my crafts, and it was Christmas time, and I had all these 3D projects because I do a lot of craft fairs. And people were buying my products, and they're like, oh, do you show how to make them? I said, oh, sure, I have workshops. I show how to make these. So my friend Rachel's like, well, cool, you show how to make these. You're the Papered Chef, and, you know, she's the Pampered Chef. And we just started, like, playing around with those words, and that's how my name was born. Oops. And then really your name is born after you go look for the website. So then I went and grabbed the website domain name. And then after you get the domain, you're like, okay, now I'm really the Papered Chef. I've secured the paperedchef.com domain. All right, so now we're done. So now you know how to make these, and let's do some coloring. So I'm going to lower my camera now and get you closer in there to do the coloring. So you want to use a silicone mat when you're coloring or something. Or actually, you could just use your tray. You can just use your tray and the mat. Let's see, I have all these things. We're going to take the blender pens. All right, we need these 2 colors. So we need the crushed curry. Open up the crushed curry like that. Okay, we're going to blend. We're going to use that for blending. Okay, this is for texture. Okay, we're going to open up the Mossy Meadow. Okay. Let's put that down here, right here, so you can see how I get a color. So you can see everything at once. This one we're going to use for blending. So we want to dip what's down under there. There we go. I knew it wasn't even. We want to dip this we're going to dip into the crushed curry, and we're going to use our blender brush to color this little, what do we call this? The loveliest day, the banner. Okay, we're going to color the banner. I'm going to go ahead and put this down. The little silicone mat. All right, so here we go. So coloring the banner. Actually, let's look at the card, how I did it, because I like to kind of go. I need a little bit of crushed curry at the top of this banner. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking the blending brush and I'm coloring the top of the banner. So we'll put that there. Or we'll well, it's okay. We'll put it, let me put it over here so you can see it. Put all these things we need to color in here. Okay, we don't need that. We just need that over there. I'm just getting all the little pieces we need out of the way so you can see what we're doing over there. All right, now go ahead and tap, tap, tap. And you want to color the top of the banner like so. Okay, pretty cool. So go ahead, we'll go ahead and do that to the other banner. Tap, tap, tap. Okay, and I'm just tapping onto the silicone mat or your place mat or your little grid paper. Okay, color the little banner. All right, good. Now I think we're done with that. But because we have a little bit of ink on it, we can go ahead and take our blender pen and we can dip into this ink. I'm just going to go ahead and draw onto this mat to see. Okay, good. So the blender pen has this like really cool, I don't know what's inside, just really cool like solution that lets you sort of stretch your ink. It takes your ink and you can sort of lighten it and blend it. And so when you color, you have to keep dipping because the ink only stretches so far. So you're coloring. But if you want it to get light, then of course you don't redip. And that's the nice part of the blender pen. You're going to see when we do the sunflowers. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn it upside down because I'm right-handed. Color the other side of the banner. Okay, All right, good. And we want that little shading going on, and I'll put that over there. Now I could have dipped straight into with the blender pen, you can dip straight into the ink. It's just that I still have a lot of ink on my stamping block, so you should use it, right? So how is this different from a marker? It's the shading. If you have a Stampin' Right marker, it's going to be really dark. And this allows you to just use a lighter form of all the colors. And even if you use a Stampin' Blends, that's the alcohol marker, that would work too in these embossed. That works really good on basic white. But even those are darker than the blender pen. Okay, so far so good. And now let's go ahead and start coloring our sunflowers. So we're going to go ahead and dip. And I like to just color I just like to do the big areas first. Okay, so see how that's dark? So keep dipping and let's color the outsides. I'm dipping between each little leaf. And then what I do is like the excess ink. So after I'm done coloring, I'm going to color those little stems. See, these little bits are nice for light yellow. And you can even use like Daffodil Delight or something really yellow. See for those, but I just use the same crushed carry. Or you can use maybe Bumblebee or some lighter form of this color. Oh, even that's a little dark, but that's okay. You get the idea. I'm just going to go ahead and color them all because I just want to use like the leftover ink. So they're not so dark. Let me get rid of a little bit of ink on that leaf. And do that. Okay, good. So now flip it around. Now you could do a lot more shading with these pens, but the idea is the darker is when you first dip and then the lighter later. Oh, I think I did use a little bit of soft suede in the middle. So we need a third color. We're doing this color first, but then we'll do Mossy Meadow. And then we'll find if I have a soft suede here. I see that I use soft suede now that I'm looking at the other set of sunflowers. All right, good. The rest is Mossy Meadow, which maybe this little part is a flower, though. This little part here. So that one you need a little bit of the crushed curry. Let me see if there are any more flowers. There's one more flower over there. And you can see there's still color on my blender pen. So you can go ahead and do these others. If you want them light, then use the leftover ink. It's super fast. And a good thing to do while you're like binge watching on Netflix and stuff is just, you know, if after you get to know your characters. So say you're watching a series and you get to know your characters and you know what they sound like. So now you don't have to like look up at the screen every time, unless it's like a really visual show. And then you could just sort of color and listen and still getting a lot done while you're watching TV. All right, cool. This one's lighter. I kind of like this one better. It's a little bit lighter than the one on the right. And of course, every time you do it, it's going to come out differently. I think this is so much quicker than putting on the cap every time for your blender pens and keeping them from drying out. All right, so good. Now, to clean off your blender pen, I'm just going to move this little mat over. You just go like this. That's it. That's how to clean off your blender pen. I've used this with many different colors. These come in a set of 3. They're all the same. You have this, you know, well, that little nib got knocked down. But here, let's see. You have, see, they get like a little bit stained, and it's okay. You get a set of 3 blender pens, and they're the same. They just have little nibs on each side. So you don't really have to worry about, you know, you can use the same set of 3. I have just a few sets, maybe a few sets. You could use the same set over and over again. All right, so this time I'm going to dip right into my ink. Actually, I might get a little stamping block, but I think dipping straight into the ink is fine. Yeah, because this is a little darker. So now I'm just going to go ahead and do the Mossy Meadow. I'm just coloring right over that embossing powder. One little dip, and look how much I'm coloring. It just goes on and on and on until you start to see it get light. Okay, let's see. I think I just did like the whole entire scene here with one dip. Okay, I'm going to give it a look. So all I'm missing is that soft suede for the middle of my sunflower. I'm going to see if I can keep going with that same dip. That's amazing. I must have dipped right into a good spot. Notice I dipped onto the side of my ink pad. And the reason I do that is because I like to keep the middle flat and, you know, I don't want to make it all bumpy for like my stamped images. So I tend to always dip into the sides with these blender pens, just in case I nick the sides. Wow, it's like the gift that keeps on giving. And I do see I forgot one little part for the yellow, or the crushed curry. So we'll go back and get that. All right, so that's good. Oh, nope, I mean a little bit. One dip, 2 images. And I liked how some parts are lighter and some parts are darker. Now what I want to do is get the crushed curry right there. So what I'm going to do is to rub that off over there. And just to show you, I'm going to use the same tip. See? Look at that. Get that all off there. Dip into the crushed curry a couple times to make sure you're not mixing the, you know, the greens. Okay? And just go over here and finish that flower I missed over here. All right, so good. Now I just need the soft suede. Let me see if I have that right here. I found crumb cake, which will work. So what you want is I wanted like, see how I did? I probably might have used crumb cake, but I might use soft suede or crumb cake, but I think I'll just use crumb cake for the middle because I would finish off these flowers. All right. We're going to dip. I'll get rid of the... Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close. I think I'm all done with this one. I'm going to close this. Close the Mossy Meadow. And... Okay, and that's the crumb cake. So just drawing on the... This is like parchment paper, by the way. That's what I'm using there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and color the centers so they look more like sunflowers. Okay, I do see I need a little bit of Mossy Meadow over in that one corner. So I'm just making the insides of the sunflowers darker. Okay, and Mossy Meadow is just one little piece missing. Grab that. Soft suede would have technically looked better, but all right, this, where was it? It was right here, this little leaf in the back. I don't know if that was, it should have been green or not, but it is what it is, and we're done. And so you could then, if you want to add some sparkle, you can add Wink of Stella, make them all sparkle. Okay. Let me go ahead and, what I want to do is, you want to rub these off. So you want to get these cleaned off, right? So that there's still that green tinge to it. It's like my green was mixing with my crumb cake. All right, but it's all clean. It's all good. I'm happy with how my flowers came out. Never second guess yourself. It's crafting, and everything's going to look different. So you're going to just, move on. All right, let's grab the paper. All right, let me see. I lost my paper. I seem to have lost my paper. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and show you the Rustic Harvest. Okay, that was the Halloween stuff we did. I will go ahead and show you Rustic Harvest so you have something to look at. And if I can't find my paper, we will improvise and just show you how to do the rest of the card. I know I didn't use my paper. It's just a matter of can't find my paper. All right, so here's the Rustic Harvest Suite collection. This suite is really cool because it has the Rustic Harvest, Hello Harvest, stamp set that we've been using, and the set of dies. And this is what the whole suite looks like together. So you can observe all the different parts that make up the suite. So so what I'm thinking is that I ran out, and that's why during the stamp sale I did order more paper. So I'm thinking that maybe these are my last ones left. So let me see if I can't. I do have what's it called? Celebrate Everything, which does have some of the coordinating colors. I'm just going to see if, there's our crushed curry, right? Just to give you an idea of the measurement. Okay. So for this card, you would just basically be doing, we're not going to actually keep this card as a background. This is just sort of to show you what to cut. All right, so whenever you have, for your A2 cards, we have our card, which is an A2 card. It's 5.5 by 4.25. So we need these cards, we need these layers to be 4 inches, right, by 5.25. This is not the Rustic Harvest paper, by the way. This is the Rustic Harvest paper, but I don't want to use this for my, I guess I could, for our sunflower, right? Or this one, because it don't really have the right colors. So I'm just trying to show you that you can well, actually, we would use crushed curry. We need the right color. Okay, so that's what you would do is the card, like layer. Okay, it would be 4 by 5 1/4. And then you would take, let me go ahead and do the 5 1/4. Do 2 of those. And then what I want you to show you is just you would take a strip and do 1 inch. You would do a 1 inch strip by 5 1/4. That just breaks up your card, gives it an extra layer. And I'm waiting for the order with my stamp sale because we had a stamp sale last week and I ordered a lot of, different things during the sale. So when I get that, I'll have more Rustic Harvest paper and I'll finish putting these cards together for the next part of the series. But then you're going to go an inch by 5 1/4. And you're going to go like that. Okay, with the Rustic Harvest paper or this paper. I mean, because crushed curry actually crushed curry would work with this, but I'm not actually going to make this card. I'm just showing you how. Now you take this little guy like that. Okay, here, let's put it all right on the card. So you have your 5 1/4 by 4 inch. You have your 1 inch strip by 5 1/4. You have your little banner. If you want, you could take your little mossy meadow like we've done in the past, which I'm about to show you all my projects, and we put that behind, and we did the little fraying of the braided trim. This is the braided trim that's in clearance. Okay, and then where's our little? Okay, we have our little sunflower that goes there. And we have our 2 little sunflowers that go here and here. Okay, so that's how you put the card together. And of course, you want to add extra bling. I mean, there's what you do with the mossy trim. You put the mossy trim behind the sunflower, or you could put it up behind there. So that's how you create the card. And, the mossy trim, you're just going to just put mossy meadow. I say mossy trim. Mossy meadow trim, you're just going to put a little piece like that, adhere it, and fray the ends because the ends fray really nicely. Okay. So that's how you get that sunflower. So that's how you put this card together. This is a piece of Rustic Harvest Designer Series paper. This is Rustic Harvest. And all I have left is like little scraps of it, but I did order more. So we're going to finish the series strong. Now let me show you, speaking of this series, what we're going to be making next, which is sticky note holders. A while back, we made the boxes, or not a while back, but in part 4, and you voted. When I asked you about the 3D projects, you voted to do the boxes first. And so we didn't do these sticky note holders yet. So this is what we're going to be doing. Sneak peek of the next part of our series. Okay? Actually, I do have enough scraps to be doing this. So we might actually be able to do this without waiting on the rest of my paper because we just need little scraps for that. Okay, in part 1 of this series, let me go ahead and go back to the part 1. I just want to show you everything we created in the series. Yeah, Nicole's saying the blender pens will last a really long time, and there are ways to refill them, but I've never bothered to refill them, and they've lasted me for years. Yeah, Gloria, everything's okay. I just lost my paper. Well, I didn't lose my paper. I just don't have any more paper. Papered Chef running out of paper, as it goes. Hi, Lynn. Yeah. Do you hold on to retired blends or get rid of them? I hold on to everything, Marilyn. Retired blends are awesome. You're talking about the blends, like the Stampin' blends, the colors. And then I put some drips of alcohol into them and let them last a little longer. Okay, so Nicole, the Embossing Editions Toolkit is really awesome. You'll like it. You can use the link in my description to get it. It's really cool. Yeah. Anyway, let me go back to this. So part 1 of this series, we created, let me just try to organize these into like which parts was which parts was which. We did the pumpkin cards in part 2. We didn't do this pumpkin yet. We didn't do this one yet. Okay, this was all part 2. All right, so part 1, I talked about how to emboss, and I went through the Embossing Editions Toolkit. We talked about how to use it. We embossed Designer Series paper here. Okay, so, and this was Textured Chic. It was from the Textured Chic suite. It's called Distress Gold paper. And we used the little swirls, and we colored the Designer Series paper. Okay, so that's really cool. And we did this one as well. Now you're going to see where I run out of Rustic Harvest. And I've already gone through like the 3 packs already. But I used it for my fall projects with my ScanNCut course. And that's why I used like a ton of it. Okay, so that's what we did in part 1. And then just to show you some other techniques, so this one is just using clear embossing powder. And that's how that looks with the Loveliest Day. And this one's using the same technique, but a different style of card, okay, for this one. Okay, now this is another series. It's just like what we did for the Loveliest Day, but I did more coloring of the background. We embossed these leaves, and you can see that I colored the designer series paper, more of this trim, and I used a lot of Wink Estella on this pumpkin. All right, so that's pretty much part one. And then we did, let's see, we did, I would call the, what did I call these? My textured, here, let me get these 2 pieces of paper out here. I called it my textured pumpkins. Okay, so I showed you how to make, during the series, these textured, oh, and also during part one, sorry. We made these projects here as well. We made these embossed diaper fold treat pouches. Okay, so that was all part of this series as well. So if you missed it, please go back and check out part one. And there's lots of ideas, and I love this paper and how it comes out. And some of you asked me to cut this out with the ScanNCut. I haven't tried yet to cut these pieces out with the ScanNCut, but maybe I'll try when I get my new pack of paper. All right, now then we did, after that, we started talking about textured pumpkins. So and this was, by the way, this is part of my ScanNCut series where I showed you how to make these treats. But I was just showing you, I showed you how to design this with your Canvas workspace. So in this series, I showed you how to make these textured pumpkin cards where we use Versamark and those Rustic pumpkin dies, these dies here. And it's a really cool technique of using Versamark and these pieces to create these really fun layered pumpkins. And I showed you how to use like tone on tone with some pumpkin pie, okay? So I really love these because we colored the backgrounds and then we used a punch to create this little banner here. We just used one of the punches. All right, so that was what we did. This one I think I might end with in the series. This piece here is from Cottage. It's from Gingham Cottage paper. And I might end the series with, after I do the sticky notes, the sticky note is next because I could do that with my scraps. So I might do that. I might even do that this weekend because it might be to do this with the materials I have now. But this one I might end the series with how to emboss white pieces, like how to emboss white embossing powder and clear embossing powder together, and then how to create this little textured pumpkin with the Gingham Cottage paper. So these are just some extra projects, but I may or may not get to that one. We'll definitely get to this one next. All right, so then also in this series, I showed you how to create boxes. And I feel like there was another part of the series, but now I'm going to find the boxes. Okay, this was part 4. And here, I think I put the candies and hit this one. So I showed you how to make double-sided boxes using the black cardstock that's in this, in this suite. And then this is all the stuff that'll fit in these boxes. Lots of stuff will fit in there. Put a little swirl on the inside. So this is what we just did last time, so you can check that out. So there's lots of 3D. I'm alternating between cards and 3D projects for this whole series. So I hope you're enjoying the series so far. We will play with this background and make something similar to this in the last part of the series. I think that's why I did save these pieces, just to make it through until the end, even though I'm waiting on the paper. But hopefully this weekend we'll get to do one more part of the series. I'm shooting for Sunday, and then we're going to get to do a wrap-up. Now next, and then just let me finish wrapping up by telling you what's next, and I'll do this in my newsletter. I want to tell you what we're focusing on next. Okay, the catalogs tend to just like disappear. All right, it's called Jingle, 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 and it's like part of this mini catalog. And that's what we're focusing on next for the next series during the month of October. So it's page 26. So during the last part of this series, I'll give you a sneak peek of the projects we're making. We're going to be using many different types of designer series paper for this. and focusing more on the stamping and the stamping techniques themselves and card design. Okay, we'll be doing a couple different fun folds and things like that. So get your Christmas cards, get your jingle jingle on for the Christmas card making session that we'll be doing during the month of October. Well, that's all for now. This is the Paper Chef. Have a great day.